Okay, approval of December 8th meeting. Any additions, corrections?
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Citizen statements. I don't think we're going to have any tonight. Ron's there if we got any questions later. Business tonight, discuss and approve restroom building design for Stevens Park. Ray?
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, this is really only the business item that we have for this evening, but we wanted to get this process moving because we do have to get the Plan Commission approval on the building because it's a public structure going into a public facility. So we wanted to keep the process moving so we can get the project out for bid as soon as possible. So in your packet, you should have received a copy of the floor plan, which it's very typical to the, or similar to the restroom facility that we constructed out at Menominee Park, the new one about 2 years ago, except this one doesn't have the kitchenette. It's a little smaller in size, both in building as well as the shelter overhang. And so for that reason, we're hoping the cost will come in to be less than what the Menominee Park one was as well. And because this is a neighborhood park, I really don't foresee this as being something that's going to be rented out to community groups because there's limited parking, but it's more for the general park users and the neighbor users of the park to utilize for restroom facilities and picnics and just hanging out. So again, the floor plan is included. You can see that what we're proposing is a shelter facility that's about 19 feet by 25 feet attached to the building. Restroom facility will have 2 stalls in each, the men's and the women's. It's obviously all ADA compliant. As Terry said, Ron is here if there's any questions, but I believe we also did, you'll see on the colored renderings on some of the different elevations, we are including some skylighting to help use some natural lighting throughout the facility. And then what we've also started to do in all of our new buildings is everything will be automated. So, you know, the sinks, the toilets, as well as having locking mechanisms on the restroom door so we can set those to automatically lock at a certain time of the night and then have them open in the morning. So what we're looking for tonight is your blessing to say, yes, we do like the facility, or no, we'd like you to go back to the drawing board and make some changes. But again, it's really very similar to the Menominee Park one, as you can see, and we really got a lot of good compliments from citizens there, and I think it's a good fit for the city and the park facility. So if there's any questions or comments, we'd be glad to answer those, and again, if it's something particular, Ron can help out as well.
My only concern was those drinking fountains on the outside of the building, if they're going to be a problem. I talked to Chad, and he said he's not much of a problem with vandalism on something like that, or?
Nope, not really. And because we do have such high use on the ball fields and the playgrounds there, we'd really like to offer those. And it's probably been one of the least worries of our vandalism. More of the things happen inside the facility where people are out of sight and out of view. So, yeah, I don't see it being a big issue, Vic. Just to give you an idea where the facility will be located is between essentially the playground and the ball field. So we do have to run some utility extensions all the way from Frankfurt, which will be figured into the project estimates, and we'll have some additional concrete work to do around the facility, and then we'll connect the pathways so that we do have good access off the pathways to the building itself. Ron, is there anything I'm forgetting or anything you'd like to add, or Chad, or anybody?
Just to maybe address the drinking fountain.
If you could maybe step up to the mic there, Ron.
Just to address the drinking fountain. Presently, between the 1st of May and the end of July, they hold 2 and 3 ball games there, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that park is used from 5 until 8:30, just about those 3 nights. They don't sell refreshments or anything in the area, but the drinking fountains, I think, would be critical for the ball diamonds. And since I'm a member of the Stevens Park Neighborhood Association, we have very little vandalism. And this facility will be visible both from Eveline Street and from Frankfurt Street. So neighbors can watch it, and for an example, our little library, we've had no problems with it. So, the park is lit real well right now, so, and this will have lighting on it too, so I don't see any problem with vandalism.
If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to approve it. You want it?
I got a couple questions. I think it really looks good. I mean, this is gonna be a great thing for Stevens Park. I mean, I don't know if Ron remembers, but Stevens Park to me was old abandoned buildings from Miles Florist. That's what we used to play in. So this is really something, and adding this to that park, I think that's the greatest little park in town. And we haven't got any more land around to do stuff like this. The only thing I was wondering when you said it's not going to be rented out, if somebody wants to rent it, or if somebody wants to have something, I mean, nothing really big, but it's still good. It's really a nice park if a family wants to play ball, or if they want to do whatever, can they still?
Yeah, we're going to have further discussion on it. The reason that we'd want to limit what we can do there is maybe limit the size of the group that can rent it out, because there is very limited parking.
Right.
And as Ron said, if there's ball field or ball diamonds or ball games going on, the parking is essentially taken up there. So we really have to be careful we don't overcrowd the park in the neighborhood. So we could have further discussions on that, but that was some of our initial feeling, was it's more of a shelter that's available first come, first use, and we'll have some further discussions though.
Okay, no, I think it really looks good, and it's really going to be nice for Stevens Park and the whole neighborhood, so. Okay, anybody else? Go ahead.
Oh, I can make a motion to approve?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll do that.
second,
Second.
roll call.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Aaron's.
Yeah.
Sokoloski.
All right,
Rule. Aye. Wooler.
Aye. Okay. The rest is park director staff reports. Start with Ray.
I'm going to keep mine brief, because what I did was asked each of our division managers just to give you an extended report on some of the projects maybe that they got through this past year. Kind of just an update on some of the numbers, the preliminary numbers that they might have available. And then once we get into the next couple of months and we have a better idea on the year-end numbers, we'll bring those forward in a report from the various divisions. But I thought it'd be a good time, because we didn't have much on the agenda for everybody to give you some kind of extended report. One big thing that I've been working on, a couple projects that hopefully we'll be hearing about in the next couple of months. The Inclusive Playground Project at South Park that we've been doing fundraising on. I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks we'll have some good announcement to make on that project, and be bringing forward some finalized plans, and hopefully getting that project rolling yet this spring. So hopefully at the February meeting we'll be able to have some good news for the group. Another project that we're in some initial planning and discussion stages is Little Oshkosh, being built in 1997. That facility is in need of some renovation, repairs, and updates, not only for safety reasons, but for ADA compliance. And typically our playground structures in all of our park facilities, once they get between that 15 and 20-year age range, is when we typically will go in, have those removed and replaced, because the safety guidelines do change considerably in those times. So what we've been doing is meeting with members from the Southwest Rotary. For those of you that were here, the Rotary was really the driving force behind Little Oshkosh when it was built back in 1997. And so they actually came to us and said, it's really time for us to take a look at that facility and talk about what we need to do, and what Southwest Rotary is kind of be the community activist behind this project to help us get some renovations and remodeling done there. So we're doing some initial initial footwork with them. We're actually working with bringing in a firm to help us do some analysis and assessment of Little Oshkosh, again, to give us some idea long-term what we'd be looking at for renovation, reconstruction, and repair costs. So I would expect that'll be a number of months down the road, but hopefully sometime in summer to late summer, you'll also get some ideas on that. So another big project that we hope we will be taking on. So I'm going to stop there and let the other staff members take over, Terry.
Okay. Chad?
Well, going back on 2014, I think just highlighting some of the things that have been happening, and I think it's been a wonderful year. I think maintenance-wise overall was a challenge for us during the entire growing season just due to the lawn services in general. Kind of took us away from some of the project details we'd like to take place with, but when I look through the CIP projects that we were part of, administratively and labor-wise, with the zoo in general, the wolf exhibit, when we had the vacancy for there, we spent a lot of time inside the exhibit itself redoing a pond that was all gravel before, that we concreted in and embedded river rock in that to make that better maintained. Redid some dens in there, also worked on the holding areas before we did those, and I think the big thing was the acquisition of the new wolves from Forest Lake, Minnesota, and the Wildlife Science Center. Took a good amount of our time, but it was well worth it, and it's nice to see them doing well in the exhibit today. All the events we worked at as a department together that Jenny will highlight on, I think is a huge thing, and administratively the master plan in general, everybody had a good part of. Then I think also administratively we got the elk are now under our control. We're no longer leased from a independent firm, and I think that's great to add to our collection in the long run. So we can keep building in the zoo as we move forward. Parks-wise, talking about Stevens Park alone with the restroom coming forward, we added the perimeter sidewalks around the playground there this year. It was a good undertaking, but definitely added to the entire safety and the ADA compliance as well as the aesthetics of the site. When I think of things over the past couple years, from adding the concrete to around the ball field and the ball field itself, the resurfacing of the trails, the tennis court resurfacing, and the basketball court color coding, just a strong positive forefront of going through in the parks there, and through the Great Neighbor Works program. Then also moving that forward up to Tech Miller Park, where we did the same thing with putting a brand new play structure in the following last fall, and then finishing up this past year with the surfacing, and then or the perimeter sidewalk. And then this year we're going with the access paths through the park down there. Just, I think, great things that are going to be happening there. Bauman Park, again, removing the old play structure, putting a new structure in, the perimeter sidewalks, accessible routes to and from, the new athletic field, the fencing down there, the tree trimming that took place just to help clean the park up in general. A lot of our smaller neighborhood parks are starting to spend a little bit more attention to detail on, and I think that's sending it positive here as we move forward. Menominee 8, down Menominee Park, we excavated since the master plan's been developed and the athletic field staying in their current locations, Menominee number 1, we excavated to put the concrete from dugout to dugout down there to help clean that environment up. In time, we'll be putting hopefully dugouts in there, fences for people to help with the control of youth programs and all those things. And our goal is to continue with the Softball Commission and the other organizations that utilized Menominee 8 to improve that here in the near future. So, and then we also get numerous things for memorial benches coming in and requests. And if you go along Miller's Bay on the backside, we put 3 in this year with an accessible path that joins in concrete and also allows people that may have challenges that they can sit next to people in benches and come forward. So that's just been a good thing. Special events, I was going to go through and make a hit list on those, but I think for the annual report, I'll update that more in general, because there's a countless amount of events going on, from normal shelters to large community events. And as much as the parks take a toll with a group, I think our organization does a very good job of maintaining them and keeping them up for people to use. The Leach amphitheater, did some nice improvements, concession stands inside for us, for our groups, and I think other groups that utilize it as well, plus the landscapes that Bill's crew took care of through there and improving that, the whole aesthetics on the back side of the hill, along with the restrooms and everything else that's up front. So I think those are just a few highlights in and around the daily maintenance, from the restrooms, the shelters, playgrounds, turf maintenance, and all those things that we take place of on a daily basis. It was a very productive year, and thankful for the crew we do have, and my hat goes off to them and their efforts and their knowledge to do some of those things here. Coming up in 2015, a lot of our equipment requests didn't get through the purchasing and the ordering that we got in here late fall, that we're doing a lot of setup now going into next year for this current year. Dock projects such as Mill Street, Fugelberg and 24th, we are going to restring and deck those yet over the winter months here while we have ice to work with. Currently working on a permit with the DNR in regards to the pedestrian bridge at 24th Street to connect that break wall and have a concrete sidewalk go across to there for long term. The Riverwalk project that I know Paul Tim informed us from AECom that the new restroom will hopefully take place for construction down there in June. So that'll be another thing added to our site, or to our maintenance rounds this year, and plus a couple other West Algoma Park that we'll be doing the perimeter sidewalk that we actually got excavated a couple weeks ago and got all the gravel in, along with the amusement docks down there for our kayaks and canoe racks that we're trying to clean up and make things better there, and just a lot of things that are going forward. And another big project for the winter, we're hoping to do some surfacing with gravel up at the North High Conservancy in the paths around there. So I think it's going to be an eventful year. I hope it works out well, and it's been 2014 I think was good in itself too, so looking forward to things moving up. Oh, yes sir.
Anything on the horizon for Rainbow? I know we got our master plan in, and anything that's going to be happening in 2015?
Yeah, I need to look at the capital improvement plan, Bill. There's nothing in the CIP for 2015. I believe in 2016 we have some, the design work would be completed at that point for the boat launch area. And I believe potential construction or reconstruction would then be in 2017. But let me double check on the timing of those and our CIP and get back to you on that.
Okay, I was just hopefully, try to push for that shelter to be built down at the west end of the park, so.
Yep.
That's probably got to be the first thing that's got to be done before you can tear down the old one, right?
Yes and no. We want to get the restroom facility at least built on the boat launch area for sure. The restroom facility, I think, was planned further down the road just based on the project costs. Let me take a look at the phasing plan, and we can talk about that again.
Okay, thank you.
Are those the projects at the end of Michigan on the Riverwalk? Are those going to be coming online this year as far as the restroom facility and the shelter there?
Yep, that's what Chad alluded to on the Riverwalk at the Boatworks property. That restroom facility, it got too late into the winter months to begin construction, so I believe our recent meeting with AECom is they are going to plan to start that this spring or early summer. So I would expect that by mid to late summer we'd have the restroom facility down by Michigan Street, the Boatworks property.
Is that going to have a designated park name?
I think what we're looking at doing is just making it part of Steiger Park because it is right adjacent to it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're looking at, was just having it be another extension of Steiger Park all the way through that area. But I know the parking lot is being, I think, bid out potentially, I think, coming to the council tomorrow night, I believe, and that would be at the Boatworks property area. So the Riverwalk down there, the project is still continuing right up to the Boatworks and Jeld-Wen site. Yep.
Questions? All right, Bill.
Okay, took me a little while to remember 2014. Things went pretty quickly through the year, so all in all, a pretty successful season. Didn't have too many storms to contend with, so that's always good when you're in the forestry areas. Did a lot of emerald ash borer treatment. This is sort of a innovative, proactive approach we've taken. We've treated over 300 trees this spring, and we'll do approximately the same amount again next year. We're treating with a product called Triage, which gives us 3 years of protection from emerald ash borer. So we've been treating a lot of the better quality trees. We won't be able to do everything in the process. We're also going to cull some that are in poor condition. So it's going to be kind of an ongoing thing here for a number of years. But I was very happy with how the equipment worked, and the crew got all their recertifications for the treatment, and so everything kind of fell into place real nice. So it was well received in the neighborhoods, and people were kind of curious what we were doing out there, and approached a lot of the guys out there in the field, and were inquiring about what exactly was going on and how they could treat their own trees on their own as well. So had kind of a little bit of an educational project going out there as well. One of the bigger projects that we had was the Ohio-Wisconsin Avenue median planting, which we completed. As you recall, that was done as part of the bridge construction project a number of years ago, and the project didn't really fare too well, so the crew went in there and replanted those medians, and we actually received an award from Southwest Rotary Environmental Beautification Committee for that work. So it's kind of nice to be recognized by others in the community for some of the projects that we're working on. As you know, also our crew is involved with the roundabout maintenance as well. So we've been finding has been taking up quite a bit of time as we get more roundabouts online too. So I think the crew did a pretty nice job with keeping those in order here through the season as well. In April, we were recognized for our 33rd consecutive year as a Tree City USA. So we always have a big event generally at the Payne Arboretum for that. So this year we had UW Oshkosh involved, which is I think one of the only tree campus USAs in the state. And then also Wisconsin Public Service and American Transmission Company, who are our partners in the utilities, received the Tree Line USA Awards too, which they have been involved with for quite a number of years as well. So it's kind of nice to get all those parties together that are involved in the community forestry activities throughout the city. And so that was a successful day, except we had a little bit of rain, so the students couldn't stick around quite as long as we would have liked them to, but it was nevertheless a good event. Have been doing quite a bit of tree planting this year. Not as many trees went in the ground as in past years, but we planted about 155 trees. A lot of those were in neighborhoods where we were replacing trees due to mortality, and then also we've been working with some of the neighborhood groups in restocking some of the terrace trees that were needed in some of the newer neighborhood associations. That work will be kind of ongoing here for a number of years as a lot of these neighborhood associations are forming. We're getting a lot more requests for working on some of the plantings on the terraces, and so that's it's been kind of good for us because the funding sources come from other places, so we don't have to budget a lot of that work through our own municipal operational budgets. So let's see some of the totals of note. We removed over 120 trees this year. We removed about 110 stumps. We still have a few stumps in the parks yet that we didn't get to due to the early frost. We'll catch those in the spring. We had about 25 memorial trees ordered and that we planted both spring and fall. So that program is still pretty viable. So we're getting a lot more trees out in the parks through that program. As Chad mentioned, we had done some landscaping work down at the Leach, Pollock Pool, some of the other park areas, we're trying to upgrade some of the plantings and make them a little less labor intensive, converting some of the annual flower beds into perennials, things like that, just to make it a little bit easier on us during our busiest seasons in the spring. So. At the cemetery, we don't talk a lot about that, but we had a pretty successful season out there too. Did a lot of tree condition assessments out there. As you know, a lot of those trees were hammered up by the storm in 2001 pretty seriously. So we're kind of going through routinely and trying to take out some of those that are becoming hazardous too. So that's going to be kind of an ongoing thing here that we'll be working on the next few years. Other than that, we're doing some neighborhood pruning. Folks will see us in the neighborhoods. We're working on a lot of the newer planted trees that were put in as part of the Taking Root program. And so we're trying to do a lot of the structural pruning on those, as well as lifting a lot of the trees that are during the growing season. Things really expanded quite rapidly this year, so we're doing a lot of lifting and doing some clearance work too. So folks will see us around in the neighborhoods here this winter and spring as well. Losing my voice, so I guess we'll call it good, and if anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to entertain that.
Can you just give an update on the George Washington Monument area?
Okay, yeah, that project is still in the works. We talked about it here a number of years ago. We have all the plans together now, and they'll be going out for bid with a spring construction. We're actually working with the Public Works Department to have their contractor put in the sidewalk work and the concrete work that needs to be done there initially this spring. And then we'll be letting bids for the landscape portion of that project as well. So we're hoping to get that started first thing this spring. It's been kind of on the burner for a while, and we want to get that moving. So we have all the funding available for it and all the plans in place. It was quite a few details that needed to be worked out. It's a relatively simple project, but we had a few little issues with it over the planning part of it. So that should be all good to go, and we'll see some activity there first thing in the spring.
Questions? Okay, next is, maybe we should take a break before you start, huh?
I know, I feel like we have a lot to report because it was a very, very busy, crazy year, but I think it was a very successful year with all of our events we've had. So I'm going to go through each area. The Children's Amusement Center, we had a good year over there. The train ran well. We had very minimal times that it was actually down for a period of time or even days, every now and then for an hour, a couple hours here or there, but nothing major this year, so that was huge. But we started off the season over there with our Kids Kickoff Carnival, which is always sponsored by Rasmussen College, so we have the bounce house out there and carnival games and face painting, and free balloons, just a day to kind of kick off our opening season in that area. So that went over very well. We always have definitely over 1,000 people there that day kind of come out, want to ride the train for the first time of the season. So this year we had 21,231 people ride the train, which was up a little bit from 2013. The merry-go-round, we had 10,885 people. The whip ride, 4,660. So all those were up a bit from 2013. So even though it was a very cool year, it went well over there just because people don't mind coming out, to the park when it's cool, whereas the water park's always a little bit slower when the weather's cold. Our water equipment was up a lot from 2013. We had, for the aqua bikes, we had 921 people ride those this year versus 723 in 2013. We had the aeration system put in. What year did we do that, do you remember?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, okay. So as that's been getting put in, it runs all the time, so it really reduces the amount of seaweed and algae, and we were really having a problem with people actually pedaling through the lagoon. They were getting stuck, and the kids would have to go out there and drag them in, and so we kind of went down in water equipment for a while because people just didn't want to deal with that and the smell of it, and So it's definitely up this year quite a bit. Pontoon boats, we rented 296 versus 294 in 2013. Kayaks and canoe rentals, 233 versus 253 in 2013. So we tried some different things, and the pontoon boats are certainly used, and they're quite a bit cheaper than the aqua boats, or aqua bikes are about half as much to purchase them, but you still see in the numbers that people want those aqua bikes. That's what they really want to rent. So we try very hard to keep those maintained, or if there's a leak in the tire or a steering issue, we get those fixed right away, because they are definitely the big rentals over there. And our kayak canoes get used a lot through school groups. They do a lot of programs in the spring and summer and fall, and a group rents our canoes and kayaks for school groups to take them out and do sailing and kayak and canoeing and stuff. So they're very used also. So we're just waiting for our final numbers to be in, but our revenue was up in 2014 definitely due to the increase in the rides. So we went up to $1.25 for the train versus $1, and $1 for the rides versus 80 cents. So we definitely had an increase over there. Also, in the train station, the concessions themselves, we had an increase from 2013 also. So that's that area. Powell Community Water Park, we had a gate attendance this year of 37,440 versus 40,476 in 2013. So we were down about 3,000. But considering the year we had, that surprised me. I mean, I was expecting it to be a bit lower. There's a lot of days that we couldn't open at noon because it was still under 65 degrees. There's a lot of nights that we closed early because it dropped below 65 before 8 o'clock at night. So there was a lot of days that it just didn't even, pay to open. And some days that we tried to open, and literally, who wants to swim when it's 64 degrees, So considering the year we had, I think that's good numbers at Pollock. So we offered 6 special events there this year. We had a welcome summer celebration to kind of kick off the summer in June, where we had all kinds of games and contests and different things. And we had a root beer float sponsored by A&W, so everybody got free root beer floats for that event. We had a teen luau, which we had the DJ sponsor this year, so the teens came out and got to do karaoke, and there was a DJ there. We had Ducky Days and Aqua Fiesta Days, a movie night, and then the past season appreciation night. Unfortunately, I feel like every special event we had there this year, it was like freezing or raining or one of the two. So, I mean, people still came, they still had fun, but certainly not how our special events there usually are. But we just did not have luck this year. And even if we canceled the one and tried to reschedule it the next week, it was the same thing. So we kind of just went with the days we had planned and hoped for the best. But we also did the Military Mondays, where all military get in for $1 on Mondays throughout the summer with their ID. And then we also do a Father's Day for dads, with all the dads get in free with a paying child on Father's Day. So, and most of all those events, we were able to get all the kind of in-kind things donated for those events. So I think people enjoyed them. Again, they just weren't the best attended this year. So for the zoo, we had a very, very good year at the zoo. Our first event of the year didn't start out very well. Our Egg Siding Day at the zoo, if any of you remember, April 12th, but it was like lightning and thundering and pouring all day. So we had to actually close the gates and make people leave the event. But we still had 337 kids that entered. In 2013, we had 891 kids enter. So, I mean, considering the weather, people still came out, but we really needed to make them leave because the amount of lightning. People still wanted to find eggs, and we didn't want them there. So we, but in what we that event was completely 100% sponsored before the event, so we didn't lose any money. We still had all of our sponsorships and things. But what we didn't make in revenue there at the gate, we had our first annual Breakfast with the Bunny this year, which is a partnership with the Oshkosh Senior Center. We host it at the Senior Center. It's an event we do with them. So that went very well. It still rained, but it was fine because it was indoors. So we had 542 people that we served breakfast to for the first year, so we were happy with that. We had pancakes and sausage. Of course, the bunny was there. We had crafts and face painting and kind of just all little fun things. So what we kind of didn't make at the gate for Exciting Day at the Zoo, we made up for the Breakfast with the Bunny, so it still turned out well for that whole day. So Snooze at the Zoo, they both went well this year. Again, for those events, we did have all the expenses covered for those two events before we had them. Those events, we only accept 100 campers for each session, just to kind of keep it a small, intimate event and everybody can see what's going on. So those went well, and it continues to be very, popular for families. They really, really love being there. And actually, a funny story, I was at the gymnastics center on Saturday night with my kids, and this little boy, maybe 5, comes up to me. He was like, "Do I know you?" And I'm like, "I don't know, buddy. Do you know me?" He's like, "I know you." And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe." And he says, "Well, did I see you at the zoo?" And I was like, "Well, probably." And he's like, "Yeah, like that event where you buy T-shirts, I see you there." And I was like, "Yep, that would be me." So it was kind of cute. And then he ran over by his mom and dad to tell them that I was there. So, and for 2015 already, we have one of the snoozes completely sponsorship secured for that event already, going into the beginning of this year here. So that's great. And Zulaween Boo this year was. It was set a lot of records for us this year. It was our 12th annual Zulaween, and with that event, it was the most people we've had in 12 years, which was 3,113 people in a 2-day event. We had the most trick-or-treat stations in all the years. We had on Saturday 52 trick-or-treat stations. It was the most sponsorships I was able to secure in all the years, and also the most money that we actually were able to make for the zoo, which was just over $11,000 that we profited for the zoo after that event. So that was very exciting. It was a big year for us for that event. So the weather was good, and even though it did rain a little bit later on Sunday, it still was it was a great day. So. And as far as, revenue, and again, we have to finalize the numbers, but revenue for the zoo, a special event account, I was able to bring in just over $25,000 for that account this year. So overall, the events went well, minus the weather we had early in the year. But as far as visitors at the zoo, we had, this is through August, because I have to input information through September yet, but through August of 2014, we had 217 visitors at the zoo, which is awesome. And that doesn't account these special events, because when we have special events, people are paying to come in, and we kind of have the gate open for people going in and out. So at the end of August, we were already over 100,000 for the zoo for visitors. So that was exciting. Boat launch was a good year. We had the increase in revenue, and so of course, or increase in the daily fees and the season passes. So of course, we had an increase in revenue for 2014. I didn't hear, and hopefully no one else heard a ton, but I didn't hear a lot of complaints about the increase in revenues. I think people knew we were just that much lower than everyone else in our area, and really, really did not get a lot of complaints at all. And I think people even it's easier to throw a 5 in there than to have 3 1s to pay for that. So that went well, and the new parking area down there that we set up, as far as single versus double stalls, the first week or two there were some questions and things, but overall, again, that really slowed down after the first week or two, and we didn't have any complaints. And of course, the fishermen were happy with the extra spots down there for them. So the ball diamonds, it was a good year, but it's very slow. Just the beginning of the season, a lot of games canceled due to rain. Just the cool temperatures, not many people out there watching the games this year. So the concessions were quite a bit lower than 2014, but with that being said, of course, the expenditures were also down, so we actually were able to, profit more money than we were the year before, even though the revenue was down. So the Lake Fly Cafe had a great year. It was the most revenue we brought in all the years since we took it over, which was in '05. So again, a great year there at the Lake Fly also. And the Leach Amphitheater, we added several new things there this year. There was a Beatles tribute band in the beginning of June that a radio station had sponsored but asked us to do concessions, so that was very good for us. They ran the event, it was their event, but we just did the concession end of it, and were able to bring in a nice amount of extra revenue for the Leach account. We did several movie nights this year. We did one a month, which all went over really well, and we're able to bring in some extra revenue for the expense of the movie and things. So those worked out well. And our new event this year was the Touch a Truck event that we had in July, which went phenomenal. We had over 2,000 people there easily. We had over 30 different trucks and games and interactive stations, face painting, bounce houses, balloons, all kinds of things. And at the end of the event, we played the Lego movie out there that night. So that was a great event, and we heard a ton of really positive feedback about that event. And we do actually already have the sponsorship for 2015 secured for that event. So that's good news going into the year. So that's exciting. And we did move that event this year to August just because July is just crazy with all the special events, with them moving, EAA and Rock USA, and there's pretty much a big special event almost every weekend in July. So we decided to move it to August so we don't have to compete with so many things. The Tuesday concert series this year, we had an estimated attendance between 1,600 and 1,800 for the 6 weeks out there. Last year we had an estimated attendance about 2,200, so we were down a bit from 2013. But again, we caught nights that were rain or really cool, or one night that I was excited to have a certain person there. That night it was like 102 degrees, so it was either just really hot or not really nice weather at all. So. Hopefully we'll continue to build on that, and hopefully in 2015 we'll have some nicer weather. But again, Citizens First is on board for that in 2015, so I'll need to start working very soon here, getting the bands secured for that. And we were not able to have the kids from Wisconsin in 2014 because there was an emergency with the kids from Wisconsin. They had to cancel the night before at like 11 o'clock, so that didn't work out this year. But other than that, it was a very busy year, but a very good year, and all the facilities, I think, went really well, and just looking forward to another exciting year next year. So if anybody has any questions? Yes, sir.
Jenny, do you know how much money we have in our boat launch fund?
Do you happen to have that with you? Oh, I have it with me. I was working on it today. Right now, we have $173,858.
Do you know how much is earmarked for any projects?
That's what we'll be looking at once we start taking a look at Rainbow and some of the design costs. I know Chad recently purchased some lumber for the repairs that he'll be doing. I'm assuming that came out of the boat launch fund. That might not be reflected there. So, as we said, once we get into design work for that project, I think design work is probably over $200,000 for Rainbow Park alone. So, we probably won't tap all that money, but a number of that will be set aside for some of those projects.
I didn't know if anything was tapped for Hugelberg or 24th Street.
I think a lot of it is already just what Chad has purchased, and if you recall, it was like $5,000 or $6,000, I think, for materials, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Dobish on the golf course.
Sure. Well, we can only talk intelligently right now about expenses because we can see what those are. I'm sorry, revenues and rounds. Expenses have yet to come through from City Hall, so we don't know exactly what they are, but we anticipate that we should be in the black. Knowing what we were through November, it looks like we should be in good shape, which was the directive, keep it on budget or under, so that we stay in the black. Our rounds are up, only 366, but that's better than being down. High school and pass rounds were up 483, and those two combined do not pay any co-pays. So although they're up, you don't see any additional revenue from those types of passes. Coupon rounds were up 724, which shows the direction that the golfing customers are going. They know what they want to spend, and they look for deals that accommodate them. Those prices will go up $2 per round, so we anticipate that number to go up this coming year. But we stayed under budget in advertising to promote those coupon rounds, so that's good. We're seeing more college students since we initiated the college age pass. I'll touch on that yet. Revenue is almost identical to the last year. It's on pace now for a better season until the weather fell off quickly in the fall. And we can look back through our averages, and we can see what a good spring will do. A good spring, which occurred in 2012, we had a $49,000 March. That skews our average by $20,000 over the past 4 years. This year, we're a 1/4% below average, even with that highly skewed number in 2012. So we feel pretty confident that if we get an average spring and summer, we should be at or above our projected revenues. We sold almost 3,000 more in junior passes. We sold almost 6,000 more in the young adult passes, which is the college age again. So that was a category we didn't have in the past. So we're tapping into more people, whether they're in college or not, they're eligible for that. I think it's through the age 24. Last year, or the last few springs have been poor weather, and spring is the key for golfers. If that's when they want to come out and play. You can throw all the promotions you want at fall. It's just not going to happen. There's too many other diversions for people in the fall, and we all know bowling and hunting and high school activities just take everyone's attention. One of the places where we saved some money last year, and I can attribute that, one of them, to the more efficient carts that we have. This is going to be our 3rd year with them, which is, I'm going to have to start looking at that next year, a new lease. But although cart revenue was down because of the really wet June we had, it was still better than 2012. It was up in 2013, 2014, it was down a little bit, but the per cart cost per round was down. So we're saving money on fuel, we're saving money on diesel fuel for the new rotaries that we purchased, enabling us to cut more grass more quickly and efficiently, and we, as Chad and Bill know, we didn't stop mowing grass last year. We mowed a lot of grass all throughout the season. There was no dormant period to speak of. We anticipate some more revenue in T-sign sponsors this year because of the cycle. Most are 1 and 2 year cycles, and those have elapsed. So we're anticipating more revenue there. We're also looking forward to these low gas prices. So hopefully we pick up some money on the T-signs. We save a few $1,000s on fuel over the proposed amounts that we had. So that we had proposed in the new budget. As far as projects that we've gotten through, there's an HVAC project that was a little painful, but we got through it. And you'll notice much more comfortable clubhouse and a much more quiet clubhouse when you're in there, both in the, not so much in the heating season, but if we need it, that's there during the golfing season. But the air conditioning setup is outstanding, so we should have a much more comfortable clubhouse. We've planted 3 more memorial trees last year, donated by one person, I might add, not 3 different individuals. The range tee and expansion and bunker removal are the top priorities for this year to finish those off. There's also more trees to remove. We took out half a dozen that were undesirable or crowding other more desirable trees. So we removed half a dozen of those, and there's another half a dozen at least that need to come out. Trace will be able to, go into more depth at the next meeting when we have, the finals from City Hall. But that's about all I've got tonight. If there's any questions about revenues, I could probably answer them, or anything else I touched on.
Anything, thank you.
Terry, I forgot. Maybe we can go back and have Byron.
That's what I was just going to say.
Okay.
Why don't
Yep. Byron, maybe if you could introduce yourself. Byron's our Leadership Oshkosh board member. He'll be here through May, I believe. But maybe you can let everybody know where you're from and what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, Byron Walliser. I work at Wisconsin Public Service. Don't hold that against me, but I am, like Ray said, a member of the Leadership Oshkosh 2015 class. Sean had said, probably one of the boards with the least number of commitments as far as meetings, but no, that isn't why I chose it. Actually, I talked to Kathy when I signed up for it all, and they said, well, you'd be part of a board, and she kind of asked my interests, and of course, grew up on a farm, so anything outdoors, so I think that's kind of why I chose the Parks board as one of my choices. So. And she put me on there. So I guess going forward here, it's like anything. It's a new experience for me, being involved on a board. So whatever I can take from here, learn, go forward, see where it takes me from here, I guess. So thanks for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Looks like about it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.